All right, everyone, welcome. It is the 5th anniversary of January 6th, and a horrible day in the history of patriotic citizens in America. And so much of that day has still not been adjudicated. Certainly not to the length and the measure that God-fearing, patriotic, Constitution-loving Americans demand. And so we're here with a couple of men who were there that day, whose lives were turned absolutely upside down, who had to face the full onslaught and weight of a tyrannical government, who, show me the man, I'll show you the crime, turned their lives absolutely inside out. Justice was not on their side. Will Pope, Tim Hale, Jordan Meek. What's your lives been like this last 5 years? And how do you feel about where the government is now in prosecuting those who went after you, a literal manhunt for patriotic Americans?
Yeah, I think all three of us, we were arrested fairly early on in 2021. So we had a long, you were arrested in 2021, right? You were in, yep. So, it was a long 4 years under the Biden administration that we had to endure. And, that was psychologically tough, financially tough. We were fighting the United States of America in court. The full power of the government had been weaponized against Americans like us. And I was entirely peaceful, yet facing 30 years in prison for being there that day. And, it was a novel prosecution that they brought. The Supreme Court found that they wrongfully applied felony charges against us. And we had to fight. We had to defend the Constitution. We had to keep going. And you really find out, what you're made of when you're put through things like that.
Tremendously. There was also this idea that government was staging things. They were literally creating and setting citizens up. Tim, you experienced some of that. What has your life been like in the wake of?
Well, I mean, like everyone else, devastated financially, name dragged through the mud. The Mockingbird media has worked hand in hand with the federal government in not only sabotaging the country, but making our lives hell. But yeah, in terms of setting this up, the real fight now and all these years since my release from prison is getting the truth out about the fact that the United States government was 100% involved in staging January 6th. It was a psyop. It was a false flag. It was a color revolution. And unfortunately, despite everything we're grateful for from President Trump, we're still fighting the U.S. government to get the truth out, and it's not coming. That's really, I think, the biggest slap in the face is that after the time that we've served or the time of our lives, it's been stolen, in spite of our loyalty and in spite of our sacrifice as citizens, we still haven't been rewarded with the most important thing. It's not restitution, though that matters. The most important thing is the truth, and we still don't have it. And that's un-American.
Jordan, we're 5 years later. You hear a lot of people who just want to get on, see all the great things that are happening, which, to your point, Tim, there's good things happening. How do you feel when people say that? I mean, they went after you, destroyed your life, destroyed your future potential. I mean, your name, this January 6th stays with you for the rest of your life. What do you think when people are saying it's time to move on?
We still have to fight, but not forget. We still got a lot of work to do, and we have the right people. Cynthia Hughes fighting for us, and they tore our lives apart, but we can't let that keep us down. So I got out, I went straight to work, started investing, because I pray to God that government comes through it, but they ruined our lives, so I'm not going to expect them to save it.
Your father, what is it like for your family, for your children to watch you go through this?
It was definitely quite the experience. Solitary confinement, but even though that was kind of the worst, the not being able to see them for 2 years, not allowed, happened to see my son lose his baby teeth and grow his baby boy teeth through pinchers. It's traumatic, but I believe in God and I have strong faith, and he brought me back home.
One thing I think about what you're saying, that, government created the problem. So looking to government to be the solution isn't a great idea. What suggestions do you guys have for the experiences you have gained so much knowledge about the judicial system, how it works, how politicians work? What do you think is the solution for true justice as it pertains to when our government did?
Yeah, unfortunately, when you learn how most politicians work, you learn that they don't work. And we are still looking for accountability. We're waiting for accountability. And if you don't get that accountability when the government is weaponized against the people like that, then eventually it's going to come back. It's going to get much worse. Like, President Trump is not the end of the problem here. He's got a limited amount of time. And if the problem doesn't get corrected, it will come back and it will be much, much worse. And it will go after a lot of other people out there who don't think the government would ever come after them. But the government will find a way to crush their lives because of whatever political or ideological position they take in life, or just because the government wants to flex and wants to intimidate and wants to, do shock and awe tactics to change the behavior of the entire society like they did to us. They wanted to use shock and awe and intimidate to try to crush dissent here in America. And we can't have that. We have a constitution that enshrines our freedom of speech, our freedom of the press, our First Amendment rights. But along the way, we also learned that a lot of our other rights are very important. A lot of the rights you don't normally think about, your Fourth Amendment, your Fifth Amendment, your Sixth Amendment, which you may never fully use unless you have to go through a legal battle like we did. And those are very important. And we found out that oftentimes the American people aren't looking when the government tries to take those rights away from you, to violate your constitutional rights. And really, I've always believed that January 6th defendants were standing on the front lines of a battle to defend the Constitution. And had we not pushed back, there would have been a lot of our civil liberties that were lost during that period of time. But you have to resist when there's weaponized tyranny coming after your Constitution.
Tim, that really takes me to this idea of people. A lot of people just took pleas. They wanted it to be done with. They need to get back to their lives. People have to live with the decisions that they make. Why was it so important for you to not take a plea, to see the full process play out? And how has that affected you now in the aftermath? Your credibility, your ability to speak on these things with authority. What did that mean to you? Why did you choose that instead to plea?
I can't criticize anyone else's decision. I had the luxury of not having a wife or kids. So I mean, my reason is the same message that I have to President Trump, which is that the truth is the most important thing. I'm willing to fall on a sword for it. There's nothing I would give more as a citizen than my life, and I was willing to sacrifice all of it. And he's right. It doesn't just end with President Trump. This has been going on for years. You go back to the Whitmer thing, but even going back decades before, we had the church committee hearings where they reveal a whole lot about operations our government's involved in. That's kind of what I would recommend. It's just like first thought. Obviously, we're never always going to get to the truth through committee. It's an imperfect system. And frankly, it's a corrupt system. But I'm here. I'm powerless. The only thing we have is our voices. I want the truth. And again, I'm grateful to President Trump, but I would say, President Trump, you're in office right now. You have a unitary authority. You have a plenary power. I would order every single one of these three-letter agencies to audit every officer or federal informant or asset they had deployed there that day and release it to the public, regardless of any reputational damage it might do to the feds. If it causes that much reputation, they deserve it and they shouldn't exist. We deserve the truth more than anything. And President Trump was a victim of this as well. And I believe that President Trump is absolutely within his right to cast these vipers out. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. Jordan, anything you would say to President Trump?
Just keep fighting the good fight for us, not the others. That's it.
Well, close this out today.
Yeah, the Bible talks about Esther being in a time in history, a time and place where she had an opportunity to do something that could change the flow of history. And like Tim said, President Trump is in a moment in time where he has an opportunity to change history. And I think in a smaller way, we all do. We can all shape the world around us in a better way. And we're trying to. But President Trump, he does have authority. He's been vested with the power by the people. And a lot can be done that is good in our country with that power. You know, on Inauguration Day, he signed an executive order on the weaponization of government. In that executive order, he ordered the Attorney General to bring accountability to that past misconduct. And he named the January 6th political prisoners in that executive order. But we're still waiting for that accountability. And he also said that the Attorney General needs to recommend remedial actions for the victims of that weaponization. And we're still waiting for that too. So already a year has passed in President Trump's term. I know a lot of people are saying we've got 3 years left. But on the political clock, time flies by very fast. You got midterms coming up. And if we get too far down the road, the weaponization of government will never be checked, will never be corrected. And we have to send a message that this can never be allowed to happen to Americans again.
Absolutely. Well, that lands at the feet of Attorney General Pam Bondi and Attorney Todd Blanche to make those moves and do the right thing by the American people. Thank you for being here, for hearing this message today. It's important that we never be quiet and we do not go quietly into the dark and on with our lives, because one day the government will be knocking on your door. Thank you, guys.